Hey everyone, Leanne Pilkington here for the latest edition of Courageous Conversations 2021. And I am very excited to welcome an old friend of ours, Lauren Matthews. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you, Leanne. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So excited to talk to you about what is going on in your world. As a lot of our viewers and listeners would know, you were a very big part of the Property Girls when you were with REA.
Mm-hmm.
But there's been a bit going on since then.
Yes.
Yes. So you are at home with baby number 2, who is nearly 6 weeks old.
That's right.
Yeah. And how's that all going?
It's good. It's definitely an adjustment. I think they tell you forget once you have one, and that's why you get lulled into going back into a false sense of security number 2. But it's great. She's great. Her name's Harriet, and she's a wonderful little baby. And I've got a 2.5-year-old Charlie as well.
Yeah.
And she has adjusted pretty well, thankfully. So we're doing okay.
Yeah, good for you. And where are you living now?
We're actually living on today I'm actually up in Sydney at my parents' place, but we are now living in a small town called Gerringong, which is
I love Gerringong. It's
2 hours south of Sydney, just near Kiama. And we've almost been there 2 years now. So once I finished up with realestate.com, we moved down there pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's a beautiful part of the world. Lucky you. Yeah. And I'm sure the prices have gone up a lot in the last little while.
Yeah, so we're currently renting, and I'm not sure what we'll do next. But it's funny because even for us moving from the eastern suburbs of Sydney to Gerringong, we find it still cheap.
Yeah.
But yes, demand for people moving and renting and buying down there has gone nuts now.
Yeah.
So shame we didn't buy 2 years ago.
Well, we've all got those adventures in real estate. I've got a cracker, but we'll save that for another time. So tell us about what you are doing now.
Yes. So in October of last year, I launched a fashion line of maternity apparel for women, specifically breastfeeding, but also pregnancy as well. So it's been about 3 months, but it's been almost 2 years in the making. So essentially, once I finished up with realestate.com, I had to work out what I wanted to do next. So Lauren Matthews was born. So my married name is Lauren Matthews, and I just thought it was a really clean, neat name. So that's the name of the label.
So why fashion? Did you have any experience in fashion before?
No, absolutely none.
I love that.
Which hopefully is the way that most businesses begin. I'm hoping I'll look back and go, I'm glad I took a deep dive, but took a risk. But like you, Leanne, although differently to you, I love fashion. You're into the bright colours and, the beautiful shoes and all those sorts of things. And I'm always in the neutrals. And I'm, pretty keen on simple designs and spending money on high quality pieces that I wear over and over again. And I just found, once I was pregnant, but also then more specifically breastfeeding my first child, Charlie, I just found that I couldn't find anything that was high quality, made in Australia particularly, that made me feel good about myself when I was in a really challenging time. Being pregnant and then having a newborn, you're thrown into a world of absolute chaos. And I just found that all the clothes that I could, that I was able to wear when breastfeeding, I didn't feel good in. I thought I couldn't get the idea out of my head. And I thought, well, I'll give something a go, and I'm giving it a good go.
So where do you even start?
I don't know, and I didn't know. I still don't know.
Did you Google starting a fashion label?
Correct. Yes. Yes. Isn't that where everybody starts, with Google?
I think so.
And I did a lot of research. I did on sort of the best way to go about it. And I found a company outside of in Melbourne, that sort of holds your hand and mentors you through the process. So I did an online 6-month course with them to understand the industry. There's a lot, like every industry, all the terminology and stuff. So I learned that, and then they've held my hand through the sample making process, through finding fabric suppliers and trim suppliers, to actually manufacturing for me as well.
Wow. Okay. Wow, I just can't even get my head around that. And so, are you the designer?
I'm the designer. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So before I even went to them, and I'm by no means creative or artistic in any way, but I can verbalize things pretty well. So I had some basic drawings, and then also looked at fashion that I like to wear all the time, and how I could adjust that to make it specifically, again, breastfeeding friendly.
Yeah.
So by the time I had done the online course and started the process with them, it was pretty clear what I was going for, the look that I was going for.
Mm. How did you be brave enough to make that jump?
It was and continues to be, I have to say, quite scary. I've got 2 young kids, and my husband also runs his own handyman business. So he's, got his own business as well.
Yeah.
And anybody who started really any business, but specifically in fashion, in retail, it is a big financial outlay.
Yeah.
And I've got a big hill, a big mountain to climb before I'm sort of where I need the business to be for it to be sustainable.
Yeah.
And you know me, Leanne, well enough probably to know that I had an idea, and once I'd resigned from realestate.com, I wanted to make and still continue to want to make something of myself to provide for my young family. And when you've got an idea in your head, I'm sure you can agree, if you can't get it out of your head, then you've got to give it a go, because I don't want to look back when my kids, have finished school and I don't have, kids to focus on and think, oh, why didn't I give that a go then? And like my husband says to me, Lauren, what's the worst thing that can happen? We lose some money. Oh, well, we'll soldier on and make money elsewhere. So, that's how we started.
Yeah, that's amazing. And to have that support from your husband is amazing, right?
Mm-hmm. And funnily enough, the idea, so I'm wearing one of the tees now, and essentially it's just a plain linen T-shirt that has zips that run down the side seam. So I pull the tee across to feed the baby in. Very, very basic. Yeah. And funnily enough, when we were playing around with designs, probably over a year ago now, my husband, of all people, at the time 45-year-old man, was actually the one who said, hey, Lauren, why don't you do this? And I was like, you're right. And so my husband, of all things, actually perfected the design, which is
how funny. That's great. And so are there not T-shirts around with side zippers?
Not 3 things. Not Australian made.
Yep.
These tees are 100% linen, so not in 100% linen, and not the exact way that essentially my seams have just become the zips.
Yep.
So no, not those 3 things combined. Not that I've found doesn't exist.
Yeah, right. Wow.
Yeah.
It seems quite logical, but then I suppose all good ideas do seem logical after you've sort of articulated them, right?
That's right. Yeah, it makes sense, but obviously no one else has taken the leap to give it a go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so how are you getting the brand out there?
Yeah. So before I launched, I started building social media. That's probably the main thing that I've done.
Which is, of course, how I found out what you were doing.
Oh, yes, lovely. Thank you.
No
but I mean, when I look at the way that I discover new brands, it is generally through social media.
Yeah.
And I was also looking for an opportunity to sort of build the brand without investing a lot of money into marketing before I launched. So I did that, and I had a fair bit of success when I did launch in October, which was good based off the back purely of Instagram and Facebook, but mostly Instagram. And then now I've launched, I've got a girl on board that I'm working with to do some social ads for me. So, to really perfect the formula, because what I'm learning is, even though I'm of the generation that we grew up with technology, there is a whole world out there, with Facebook ads and Instagram ads that is just beyond me, to be honest. And I thought, if I'm going to invest some money in something, I want to do it properly. I didn't want to just, gamble money away, essentially trying to do it myself. So got a girl doing some of that stuff for me. And then things like this, I'd love to get featured on some more podcasts. And the other thing that I've had really good success with so far is just thankfully word word of mouth. So I'm of the age where all my girlfriends are having babies.
Yep. And sadly, I'm of the age where all of my girlfriends' children are having babies.
That's right.
But anyway, exactly.
Yeah, that's right. Although, funnily enough, my parents have become pretty big advocates of my brand too. So now they'll be out with my 2.5-year-old and see a woman breastfeeding and say, hey, you should Google Lauren Matthews.
I can just imagine your dad doing that.
I said, Leanne, I said, for anybody listening, my dad's a real estate agent. And so Leanne knows my dad very well, but he is the worst, he's not the right salesman this time. But I'm thankful for his belief in my brand,
Absolutely.
So he's funny. Yeah, he definitely is out there advocating for me. But yeah, all it takes as a breastfeeding mother is to see another mother comfortably breastfeeding in a really nice luxe outfit, for them to go, hey, what is that? And so, when I just had my daughter in Wollongong Hospital, I put this T-shirt on and the midwife said to me, oh, you've got to give us the information, so word of mouth has been, thankfully so far, really, really helpful when you don't have a big budget.
Actually, that reminds me, my sister-in-law is a midwife.
Thank you, Leanne. There you go.
LaurenMatthews.com.au. I will reach out to her today. Absolutely.
That would be awesome.
And I suppose the mummy networks, there's lots of mummy networks, right, on social.
Yeah, it's a real thing. And I've also been really fortunate. I've been surrounded by a lot of people who've started their own businesses and know how hard it is. And so I've got a good girlfriend who started a business called Nourishing Bubs, which is baby purees, essentially snap frozen fruit and veg. To when you start the solids journey with your baby, you just use Nourishing Bubs as opposed to having to make your own purees. So she's been wonderful because we've got the same audience essentially. So I've been able to work with her and lots of other people again that I know that have started businesses who've reached out and said, hey, however I can help, let me help, because it is really difficult. It's, it's a tough journey to embark on.
Sounds like you should start your own podcast. Just saying.
Oh, I don't know about that, Leanne. I got 2 kids. And
oh, yeah, true. You got plenty of spare time, right?
Yeah, I'll let you do
that. So were you planning to launch this prior to COVID?
Good question. So what happened was I'd been working on the idea for quite a long time and I fell pregnant with my second, and it which was at the beginning of COVID. Harriet is one of the first COVID babies to be conceived. And I think what happened was when I fell pregnant with her, I quickly remembered how hard it is to, I went back to realestate.com full time with a 7-month-old. I know how hard it is to try and do something really well when you're a mum. So it did kind of propel me into hurrying up the launch. So COVID aside, I've read stories about people launching businesses in the GFC, and is there ever really a good time to launch a business? Probably not. So I just thought, no matter what's going on in the world, I'm going to do this before I have my next baby because it's easier now as opposed to when I've got 2 kids.
So that makes sense.
However, COVID did affect the launch of the business. So I was hoping to launch in a couple of months before I did. But my manufacturer, as I said, is based in Melbourne. And they went into the really tight lockdown where actually their business had to close, which was really unfortunate for them and for me. So my hands were tied until their business could reopen. So I did end up launching a few months later than I had hoped. I was about 35, I was 30-something weeks pregnant when I launched.
Wow.
I would have hoped that I had launched earlier, but these things happen.
Yeah, they sure do.
Yeah.
How do you make decisions around how much stock to make?
Yeah, it's hard. It's tough. So being really transparent with you at the moment, I'm not making any money essentially because I have manufactured in low quantities. So that's the benefit of this manufacturer that I've worked with. They allow for low quantities. So again, being transparent at the moment, I've just done 50 of each colour in each style, which is a really small quantity.
Yep.
But obviously then the cost for that is higher. The cost per unit is high, right? But what that has allowed me to do is test the market. And thankfully I've had really good feedback, which then, gives me some confidence that I'm onto something. And I
think the T-shirt sound genius.
Yeah, it's really simple and, just something that I felt was a miss in the market.
Although, if it was me, I would need colour.
I know, Leanne. Thankfully, you're not breastfeeding otherwise.
No, thankfully, that will never be happening in my future.
But, it's funny because now I have done really neutral colours and stuff, and then I've gotten ahead of myself, and I find myself on Instagram and Pinterest and stuff just screenshotting different fabrics and different styles and, looking at the way that what colour labels people use and all sorts of things I never looked at before.
Yeah.
Now I'm so intrigued in, and there is a market for, women who do want the bright colours and, but I had to start somewhere and to me the neutrals was the right way.
And you also, you can't do everything, right? You want your brand to be known for whatever it is you want your brand to be known for. And so if that is high quality neutrals.
That's right.
Then there's nothing. That's exactly what you should do. So how many pieces in the range?
So at the moment, I've only launched with what I've called the Charlie Tee, obviously named after my daughter.
Oh, nice.
And the Isabel dress, which is a cotton dress, again, really basic with the same zips. And Isabel is one of my friend's daughter's names. I do have a pair of pants and a long sleeve winter tee ready to go.
Yep. Are they going to be the Harriet?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I've already named them, so I'll have to hurry up and do something else for the Harriet.
Right.
Because I named them before she was born. So at the moment, it's just the tees and the dresses. I launched with 2 colours, but I'm now at 4 colours, which is good. And hopefully the pants and the long sleeve tees will be, out for winter, and then I'll go from there.
I'm so excited for you.
Thank you.
It's just, What do you wish you knew before you actually started?
Say that again. What
do you wish you knew?
What do I wish I knew?
What do you know now? Yeah, what do you know now that you wish you knew before?
Yeah, I didn't hear you properly there. Cool. Probably, I think, and I've heard, it's funny, I listened to a fair few podcasts about women who've started businesses, and I don't think I'm an idiot in any sense of the word, but I put so much work, Leanne, into the pre-launch, so sort of the 18 months that I worked on the business before I actually launched. And I didn't really put any thought into if and when I launch and I have some success, what happens next.
Yeah, right.
So here I am, there I was 30-something weeks pregnant going, oh, my goodness, what now? What do I do next? And I wish I and I'm someone who plans a lot, and I just didn't think about it. So, and it was a nice problem to have a couple of months ago where I went, oh, okay, well, now I better manufacture, some more and more colours. But I just wish I had kind of given that some more thought beforehand. And then the other thing, Leanne, I made a really big mistake that I would never recommend to anybody. To save some money with the first run when I launched, I decided that I would wash and press all the garments myself.
Oh, my goodness.
It was a really big mistake. Our house looked like a laundromat. I was pregnant. It was hot. We didn't get any sunny days, so nothing dried properly because I couldn't put anything in the dryer. My poor mother, thank goodness for her, and I washed, steamed, pressed, ironed, folded hundreds of garments. It was the biggest. And to be honest, I only saved a few $100s. Like, it was, at the end of the day, it was a really silly decision. But I learned a lot from that, and I'll never do anything like that again. No,
exactly. So were you sending, so it's essentially mail order, right? People are ordering over the internet, and are you sending them from home?
Yeah. So I've currently, because I don't have a mountain of stock, I can hold all the stock at home currently, which is good. The dream for me obviously would be to manufacture in, quantities of thousands, and have a warehouse, and then, you know, have all that on it, because it's another thing I didn't really think about. I'm held to my home currently, because the stock's there. So if an order comes in, you know, I'm promising people that it will be out same day. So again, my mother's becoming my star employee of the month.
I bet she's cheap too.
Yeah, she is. She is, thankfully. It'll be rude shock one day if I ever have to employ someone and pay them.
Exactly.
So yeah, I'm thankful for her, because, you know, if my husband and I want to go anywhere or do anything, then I've got my mum who can help me.
Yeah.
But that's another thing I didn't foresee, was that what do I want to do? What do I do if we want to go away for a few days?
Yeah.
So that's been interesting too.
Yeah. Oh, they're all good problems to have, though. It all means that you're actually selling product, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Well, I will do what I can to send laurenmatthews.com. .com.au out to my girlfriends that have got grandchildren coming, and also to anybody else that I can think of. So I wish you every success in the world. I'll be so excited to watch how it goes for you.
Thank you.
Lovely to catch up, and hopefully we'll see each other in real life one day soon.
Yes, I would love that. I think you said to me when we spoke at the end of last year that I should join, hopefully, your events happen in person.
Yes.
I would love to join one and come and have a glass of champagne with all the girls I haven't seen for quite a while.
That would be amazing. Maybe you can speak at one.
Maybe, although I've done that. I think I've retired from speaking at your events. And
great.
I like to hear other women speak.
You were awesome. Oh.
Thanks, Leanne.
All right, talk to you soon.
Nice to chat. Talk soon.
Yes, absolutely. Bye-bye.
Bye.